Thank you, Shri, and to my dear friend Cindy Shu. Thanks for being my partner in crime for so many years. And for AALDEF, this is such a distinct honor, the Justice in Action Award. You know, as many of you know, I began emceeing this auspicious event way back when it was held in the World Trade Center, like 20 years ago. And I keep coming back year after year because of the incredible mission and dedication, not just of the honorees, but of the staff at AALDEF. So I salute you all. And so often I hear people say, oh, I'm humbled by this award. But for me, for this night, this is not a cliche. This is a truism. I am truly humbled to stand in the shadow of iconic defenders of justice like the late John Lewis and Preet Bharara and Harold Coe. I mean, I feel so much humility. As a journalist, I've never seen myself really as a warrior for justice. I see myself more as a bystander to history. But if 2020 has taught us anything, it's helped us realize that in the face of injustice, no one can be just a mere bystander. We teach our children, if you see bullying, if you see injustice, do something. And I think that during my 30-year career, I have, through my stories, been a good ally for justice in action. There are 4 aspects of my job that I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight. One is that journalists bear witness. In 2015, I went to East Africa, to Chad, Cameroon, and Nigeria following Boko Haram. They had kidnapped hundreds of schoolgirls. And back then, Michelle Obama stirred outrage with the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. And yet it's happening again now, and the world is largely silent. A second key part of my job is to raise consciousness, or perhaps stir consciences. And I've done stories about families separated at the southern border or forced to remain in Mexico awaiting asylum claims. And I remember walking through those camps in Matamoros, full of people fleeing terror and persecution, and thinking, I've been in refugee camps in Africa or after the earthquake in Haiti, but I've never walked through a squalid refugee camp brought on by an American policy. And yet again, it's happening now, and we need to keep shining a light on that. The third part of my job is to give voice to the voiceless. And I did that in a story about sexual harassment in the Housing Authority and how people in power were trying to extract sexual favors for having a roof over their heads. All of these stories, funnily enough, involve lawyers. Human rights lawyers in Africa working for NGOs, immigration lawyers in Texas working pro bono, and workplace harassment lawyers in the housing story, or sexual harassment lawyers. I am clearly not a lawyer, but by highlighting the work of so many tireless folks seeking justice, I think and I hope I've helped justice in action. The fourth and final part of my job that I think bears mentioning is representation. You know, I was born in Korea and my family immigrated to California when I was just 4. And I will always carry with me the perspective. I see the world through the eyes of that poor immigrant child who grew up feeling other. Not a lot of people looked like me. And as a teenager, I watched my dad be emasculated because he had a heavy accent. I watched his anger and his frustration as he faced blatant discrimination. I bore witness to that. And throughout my life, I've had people ask me, where are you from? You know, we all get that question. Where are you from? The subtext of that question is clear because you're not from here. You don't look American. And so in 2020, as COVID ravaged our country, it wasn't long before we started seeing stark racial disparities. When George Floyd was killed, our country called out for justice, and those calls for racial equity were unmistakable. And yet at the same time, we saw a huge spike in anti-AAPI violence, right? The Asian American community leaders said it was the fear and the anxiety of the pandemic being weaponized against Asian Americans. And we also were suffering higher rates of unemployment and poverty and COVID infection and death in certain areas. I cannot be with you tonight live because I am hosting a show on ABC News Live about Asian American hate. We have Jeremy Lin tonight. We have Olivia Munn, Daniel Day Kim, all warriors for justice. But I leave you tonight where I began, in awe and with gratitude. So grateful to my husband and our 3 amazing sons. Their character and their integrity leave me breathless. I cannot wait for us to be together again. And so I thank you with humility and with gratitude. I can't wait next year for our live dragon dance once again. Happy Lunar New Year.